Julie, Michael, Kevin, Michelle Coelho, Kim Thompson, and myself. All right. Our quick meeting, we're going to quickly discuss our current financial report and what we've spent and what's from July until current, July through September. John, is that correct?
Yes.
Eddie, John, who's
Eddie,
gonna?
John, who's going to?
I'll begin. Al. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to share the screen right now, the agenda. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
I have dual screen, so I want to make sure it's on the right screen. Can you see it or no? Thumbs up?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
So the first part of the agenda will be, as Al mentioned, July through September financial reports. And then the second piece, I'll turn it over to John to talk about the Danbury Career Academy School and academy staffing. Is that good? Do I need to zoom in or is that perfectly fine?
Oh, if you could zoom in
Okay.
a little bit, that would be good.
Let me zoom in.
That's
How's
good.
that?
That's
That's
good.
good.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we began the school year well underway. We're about 33, 34 days of school teaching as of right now. And enrollment has gone up, as we all are aware. We have about 12,300 students across the district, and it's bringing a very even more tighter budget than we expected, especially at the high school. The staff at the high school enrollment with continuing program and course offering, some existing staff are teaching additional courses, which, as you remember last year, we used the word overloads. These are teacher overloads. So this basically a teacher like myself, I have a prep period and, I'm called in to teach a course or to sub in. These are the teaching overloads. Right now, for the year, we've budgeted about $272,000 that we think will happen in teacher overloads. The next piece is the transportation costs for the current high school program will also be higher than planned at $84,000. Also, more safety advocates are being deployed or have been deployed across the district. An additional 8 safety advocate positions were identified, 4 of which, including 2 at DHS. So 8 were requested. We have 4 that we put in the budget that we have in the budget, and 2 are at the high school currently, which is an additional unexpected expense of $220. And the next line item is really during the summer there was a flooding here in Beaverbrook, so we had to deploy 2 departments here, our HR department and our IT department, into temporary office space up the street at 43 Beaverbrook, while the repairs are being done here at 63 Beaverbrook. And then I'll jump into the following pages. But are there any other questions as of right now?
Can I ask, when you have overloads, what is the threshold?
Teresa, what do you mean by the threshold?
When you say, like, how many? There's such a reverb. I'm sorry. Why course offerings? How many students can be in a classroom? We need more teachers. Is that what that means?
No, these are overloads when correct. You're right. You're right. And Kim, if I could just chime in, I know you're on there. I think it's per union contracts. Is it 26 or 28 students per class?
Yeah, it depends. It really varies. There is an awful reverb here. I don't know why. Somebody might have to. Maybe you guys can all mute. So what happens, Teresa, is as classes hit a particular size, and at the high school it's in the 20s. And it varies by content and that kind of thing. But as classes become so big that they cannot be staffed with one teacher, we create additional sections. The problem is that every teacher teaches 5 sections of something. And so if we only need 1 new section or 2 new sections, we don't need to hire a whole new teacher. So what will happen is we will often run it as an overload. And the teacher's contract provides that that overload can go to a volunteer who volunteers to teach a 6th class. And if there are no volunteers, then we take the least junior person in the department to go ahead and teach that overloaded class. It's hard because you're teaching a 6th class and the compensation for it is 1/7 of your regular pay. So we often will get in situations where, if we have trouble finding staffing, or if we just need 1 or 2 additional sections, we get into an overload situation.
Well, that number 12.3 was, we had that at the beginning of the year. What is the actual number now?
The number is much higher. That doesn't come out of my group, but I'm wondering if somebody else on the call has seen the most recent student numbers. I thought it was closer to 50. But again, that comes out of the.
Oh,
The enrollment number overall for the district or for this high school?
well, I guess it's the district.
The 12.3 is the district, the amount of students we have in the district currently.
Right.
So the high school, I think the temptation is to divide that by the number of students and you get the FTEs. The problem is that at the high school, you might need 1 Spanish class, you might need 1 English class, and you're not going to be able to use 1 FTE for that, 1 full person, because that person teaches 5 sections. So that's how we end up with an extra Spanish class, an extra English class, something like that. And then there are occasions in the hard to fill areas, like in Spanish, where we may have to distribute 5 overloads because we can't find 1 full Spanish teacher. So it depends, but it doesn't divide equally into the number of students because of the different content areas that you're talking about.
Okay, so how many more Danbury High School students that we got as of October 1st?
Teresa, that's a number we can get. That comes from our data department, but I can get that number for you, for the committee.
Thank you.
So any other questions? I'm going to keep moving forward. I know we're in a really tight schedule tonight. The next few pages are basically last year at this time we did it very similar. It was requested that we added the grant piece, which was great. So I added the grant piece into the grants and general fund summary report. So up top, if you can see, is the general funds report broken down by salaries, benefits, and every other line item, and very similar, the same thing at the bottom for the grants. I'll touch base on the red because those are the questions that will come up. Right now, we have our numbers that are in the negatives in general funds, which we need a few months to change those. In the salary, there are some individuals that should be paid in grants and some individuals in the grants that should be paid in the general fund. So those are things that we will be transferring throughout the next month or two. And then the next line, the purchase property services, that 58,000 is very similar. It's just the transfers throughout the budget that we're doing that need to be transferred. And we'll, John and myself and the team look at those. We really want to leave them there so we know where those numbers are coming from. They're very similar to prior years. I know in the prior years they were left there. And then that undesignated line right there, that 1.499, those were the fiscal year 23 budget cuts that we had done. Those are for basically the K through 9, the K through 5, 9 sections that we had to cut before the school began. And also it was the additional 945,000, which is, we call it breakage. So when someone leaves and we hire someone at a lesser rate, that was that savings of $945,000. So that's why that line is there, that 1.499 line there is just showing that cut from the budget, which we know it's going into one of our other grants. Second piece of the grants fund summary report at the bottom, you're seeing the salaries at 6.7 million in the hole. Don't worry. That is because when we receive our letters from state and federal, our award letters, we'll import them and then we'll add the budget. So right now we're seeing the expenditures in the encumbrance because people are getting paid, things are being bought. But once we receive the award letters from the state and the federal government, we upload those budgets. So those should be uploaded by our next report in November for October reporting. Any questions so far? Okay. The next 4 to 5 pages is more detail of line by line of the of those numbers, of the line item numbers. So, both for general fund and for grants. And
Is it blurry or is it me?
as I'm scrolling down, it blurs, but I'm sorry. So here's your totals for your grants. What we have in grants will be year to date, our encumbrance, and then the balance. So if you guys do have any questions, and I know we're short on time, just please email me or call me, and I'll get back to you with those answers. Are there any questions as of right now? Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to John. He's going to discuss about our Danbury Career Academy staffing 101.
Thank you, Eddie. I don't have a sheet to put up on the screen, but we want to give you just a couple of the highlights of what's coming up, and we're going to have a full breakdown for the board very soon. Just some decisions still have to be made, but you know, there's actually two schools that'll be going over there, both the high school and its academies and a middle school component. As you recall, the special legislation that gave us 80% of the purchase had a middle school piece tied right into it. Anyway, what we're looking at so far for high school staff is probably something around 26 certified staff, incremental staff to go over there. Mostly classroom teachers, but there'll be, you know, some guidance counselors, ESL, the usual kind of components. We'll also have 2 or 3 administrators for the 1,000 kids that are there. Of course, safety advocates, we think, maybe 3 or 4 safety advocates should do it, and some custodians, for example, other support staff. I think 3 or 4 custodians right now, and some IT, as we have in all our buildings, to keep things running. But it adds up. It could be close to 50 staff when all is said and done. And if we are planning right now is for teachers at master's step 5 or 6, and we think that could come in under $5 million for the year. For the middle school piece, it's a little different because we have to move a whole kind of middle school program in, unlike the high school where we're taking academies out, leaving academies back in the high school. It's a whole middle school, so it could be a few more teachers than we'd need for the high school. We would have some paraprofessionals there, you know, special ed teachers. It would look very much like any other middle school, a nurse, things like of that nature. But at master's step 6, that could come in also close to $5 million when all is said and done. The third piece that we've done some work on is transportation. There, although the school buses will say 65 passenger capacity, that's elementary school students. You can only really get 2 high school kids to a seat, and same with middle school. So what we figure there'll be maybe 20 20 buses for high school kids for 1,000 kids, 50 on a bus would make for 20 buses, and maybe 7 middle school buses, are total of 27. And we know we have our contracts in place right now with STA for that year. The price per day is $440. So for 180 days, that would be right around $2 million. So that's the work we've done so far. And again, we'll have a better breakdown for the full board very soon. I know Kara, I don't know if Kara's here, but happy to answer any questions so far.
I assume there's going to be a principal for the high school there.
There is, right, and there'll be
Is it going to be at the same level as the high school principal currently with a bigger school?
the high school principal's salary is set in collective bargaining and without regard for enrollment. But I don't expect we'd be hiring at the top step or someone with the experience our current high school principal has. We would look to hire at the lower step, so it would be a lower cost. But you'll see budgeted a lower cost.
Well, I don't understand why it has to be like a full principal and not like an assistant principal, being that there's only going to be 2 academies.
Well, there'll be 1,000 high school kids. That's quite a bit, and well over 300 middle school kids. That's a busy day for a principal, and they'll need some help
the
too.
middle school kids are going to have their own principal, right?
Right.
Correct.
So
Teresa.
this is
So the building is made up of 1,000 students with 2 distinctly different academic themes, and then the big campus at Danbury High School will have 4 academic themes. But
Right.
with those themes, both campuses will still have their own unique logistics and challenges that will need to be addressed. Everything from operations to working with unions to responding back to parents and families. And so the school building is still going to have the same feel of a regular campus building with someone who's going to be in charge of the campus. It's not really unique to Danbury with this. The model is what we're doing would be consistent with how these models are implemented across the country with academies.
So you're going to have 2 principals, one for the high school, one for the junior high. But you're saying that the high school principal is going to have overall charge?
Right. So there will be a principal at both high schools, and then there will be an academy leader for each academy, which essentially right now is an assistant principal line. And then there will be someone in charge of the middle school. Whether that's a principal or not, we have yet decided exactly what that's going to look like, given the kind of the size and scope of that program, which right now is projected to be at about 350 students.
So that means 650 students for the high school.
No.
And
no,
for
that
the
means
high
it's
school.
1,000. There's over 1,300 students projected to be at the Cardis building. 1,000 students that are 9-12, and then 350 plus 6-8.
Well, I thought 9 was going to be at the high school on Clapham Ridge.
I'm sorry, 10-12. 10-12 will be 1,000 students.
Okay, I just don't see the the scope requiring a full principal at that level. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, I mean, we have an elementary school. We have schools across the district that are certainly less than 1,000 that have a principal. And so I don't think we want to set up a structure in which the person ahead of the building is across town at another school because of our unique structure. It's right. And so we have a principal at ACE Alternative School. We have a principal at Reach and Endeavor, both alternative programs, but none of them come close to 1,000 students. But ultimately, if you graduate from those programs, you still graduate with a Danbury High School diploma. And so in this instance, it's very similar in that regard, but more connected through, kind of the academic offerings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Other
Any
questions?
other questions? Seeing none. Let's move on. Okay.
I think that's it. Those are the two agenda items on.
All right. Good question, Terry. But as I understand it, the metrics, the numbers kind of in line with the metrics we have with grade school and other schools that like with the smaller numbers that still have a full principal in charge. Is that a correct statement? Fair statement, Mr. Walston?
I'm sorry, Mr. Russo, I didn't hear that whole thing. Can you say that again?
I said the metric with the number of children we have in other schools and in elementary, which have a full principal in charge, is rather in line with that full principal position that you're going to go with up at the Career Academy.
Yes, that is accurate. If you think about our two middle schools, which both have about 1,000 students, Broadview Middle School, Rogers Park Middle School have 2 assistant principals, and then there's a principal in the building.
Okay. All right. Seeing no further questions, Kate was delayed because she was in an expulsion hearing. Thank you for getting here, Kate. I guess our time together has only just begun. I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and we will go to our next strategic session, if you will.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you in the next meeting in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Can you hold that? Kenneth Wallace? Can you stay on? I need to ask you some questions.
Kevin's running the show for the next meeting.
Oh, but that's not on. Is it 6:30? Well,
Yeah, it's
okay,
6:20
so
minutes.
never mind. But who's making the motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Who was that? Louisa?
Yep.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Abstentions? Meeting is over. See you at the next one.